Hello and welcome to the Cynic Weekly on Wednesday the 28th of January 2026. I'm your host Barry Gallagher, and as always I'm joined by my good friend Stuart Duggan. Stuart, how the hell are you?
I'm good, Barry, how are you?
Very well, thanks.
Didn't mean to bat that one back to you straight away.
I know. Sorry. You caught me off guard.
I panicked. It was like on Saturday when anyone passed the ball and you thought, I don't want it. Just get rid.
Kick it along.
Apologies.
And also joining us this week is our gallant leader, Christopher Gallagher. Gal, thank you for being a panellist this week.
Thank you for inviting me. It's always good to step into the guest panel spot. It was, of course, Sunday. The game was, Stuart, not Saturday. So
I was just building on the bit that it was a bad touch.
Yeah,
riddled with errors.
I mean, that's the beginning of this podcast, a bad touch. Off to a bad start. Thank you, Barry, though. It's a pleasure to be here.
No, delighted to have you. So we'll get straight into our opening question. And Gal, will come to you first. So, as we know, the transfer window seems to have been open for an eternity. It's amazing how inaction can make it feel longer. But how many players do you think we need in to make you more confident of winning the league? And then the second part of the question is, how many do you actually think we will get?
This has been a question I've been stewing on this all afternoon. It's one where I think there's a number of different answers. Obviously, the window. I think Celtic will do business as the kind of window closes down. So, you know, we've got the game on Sunday, but I still think they'll be doing business on Monday. So I think Martin O'Neill has mentioned it's not about bodies, it's about quality bringing in. So from a quality standpoint, how many players do we need to bring in? I think we need a central midfielder. I think the performance of the midfield on Sunday was really stark. I think there's a number of reasons for that, but I think we need someone in that midfield to really help out Callum McGregor and to kind of alleviate some of the pressure on the back line specifically, and to create a little bit more. So central midfield, absolutely. I was looking at we did the agenda on Monday and we went through the squad about who you would keep and who you would kind of move on come the summer. And I was looking at our options wide, and honestly, I think Yang has been a massive improvement this season. I've enjoyed watching that kind of development. But I look at the rest of them and I'm thinking to myself, Dyson Maeda has dropped off a cliff in terms of form. Do I trust him to be... Well, firstly, will he be here? And secondly, do I trust him to regain that form? I'm not so sure. Tenekte is someone who goes up and down. Balakwisha isn't mentioned. So actually, realistically, I think we need two wide players. I think we probably need two because Jota's not coming back. As I say, the two all wide players, with the exception of Yang, who I think has been pretty damn good, are out of form. So I would look for a central midfielder, two wide players. If I was being really, really selfish and could get what I wanted, I'd probably look at a centre half, and then I think a striker as well. So it's just the casual 1, 2, 3, 4, just the casual 5, Barry. That would make me casual 5 within the next 4 or 5 days. That'd cheer me right up.
Yeah, I don't disagree. And realistically, what do you think we'll get? One.
I think we'll get two more. I think we'll get two more. I think we might get one before the weekend, and then I think we might get one on Monday. Just a late sort of. Here's an extra one we've got. Here's a bonus.
Yeah. Stu, just for a kind of pose the same question to you. As Gal mentioned, O'Neill kind of said, yes, he would like numbers, but it's quality over quantity. But that just kind of strikes to me that, as is the case, and it has been the case for probably all of our managers since O'Neill left 20 years ago, that the players being provided just aren't good enough. So it kind of puts a spotlight on who's doing the scouting, what the hell are they scouting, etc. as well, and that's kind of reflected in the recruitment that we've done of late.
Yeah, obviously there is the context of the upheaval that you've had in that department, but that is not an excuse. obviously with Nancy and Tisdale leaving, you would expect that there's still a crop of players, and it's pretty obvious that O'Neill, Maloney, Fotheringham, whoever's been looking at the recruitment have looked at that list and gone, nah, that's not really what we're looking for, and sort of said no. So it's hard to it's staring us in the face. Obviously, the structural issues with the club and how poorly all that is, and I think that at this stage, it's really about firefighting and how well we can solve some of the problems that we have. And obviously, we're linked to so many players. We're there and thereabouts with, so it's really unclear how much of it's smoke and mirrors. How many players are we actually actively trying to sign? All this monitoring, weighing up, looking at, assessing, and then there's the ones that they leak to certain journalists that they're looking at, weighing up, assessing. There's not really any rhyme or reason for gauging how well it's gone or whether or not these where the blockage is now, because I would have thought that with, admittedly, it's such a crazy workload to put on the management team to ask them to do this as well as try and turn around a really, really poor Celtic side. But you would have thought by this point they would have identified who they want and then surely just go out and get it done. And it feels like they're still humming and hawing a bit, and they don't quite know what they need, they don't quite know what they want, and they don't quite know how to go and get it, which is quite problematic.
It is indeed. And in terms of numbers for yourself?
Well, almost like a trick question, there is no number that would make me feel confident that Celtic will win that league. I think if you want to have a better chance of it, the number would probably be 4. I think you need, more urgently than anything, I think you need a central midfielder. I think you need a wide player, a wide right winger. You probably need a second striker, and I would take a centre half as well. So I think that would be your 4, and I think we'll probably do 2. I don't know what positions those will be in, and I also suspect that we'll lose someone along the way. So
yeah,
there'll be a bit of scrambling in that regard. But I think right now, I know we're going to talk about the weekend, but I just think that it's not really. I think if you add personnel, you can get a little bit more quality, but there's just much more fundamentally broken in that Celtic team. And I've tried to think of all sorts of metaphors of what it's like, and I can't really get anything close. But like, you're trying to build, say you're building a shelter or building a house, the foundations with which we're building that on are incredibly old, broken down materials, and then it's been supplemented with a combination of shite materials and materials that are not fit for purpose. And I think that ultimately the biggest problem is that the main core of the team is just not really there anymore. If you look at the likes of, all title winning teams are built on like good defences. Our defence, our best defenders on their best days are extreme liabilities, and they play like that. Like, they play like they know they've got a mistake in them. There's never really an assurance, and you saw some very extreme examples of that in a big game at the weekend with Trusty. And then you have senior members of the team that are kind of hiding and gaslighting you a bit. Like, every time Callum McGregor talks to the press now and explains what a great group we've got and how much fight there is in the group, I can just tell in his eyes, like, he doesn't believe that, and he's trying to just sell it as if we can. And you look at the likes of Fatati, Maeda, all these players that you used to rely on, they just can't go anymore, and you're kind of getting the worst versions of them. And so cumulatively, I just don't really see how adding an extra couple of elements to that gets you where you want to go. And I think as we sit right now, Celtic, I would be happy putting my name to saying that Celtic are the 4th best team in Scotland, like, football wise. And all this, the squads this, the squads that. Celtic are not a good football team, haven't been for a long time. So that's kind of where we are. Yeah,
I think you're spot on. Like, I remember at the start of the season, Gal, I think it was me, you and Boud, we did like one of the reactions in 226, and we were talking about the fact that it's not even a good Celtic team, never mind a good football team, if you know what I mean. And I think Stuart's spot on. Like, I kind of took McGregor's sort of messages after the game on Sunday, like, it's the kind of thing, like, see if you work in business or whatever, and a manager has nothing left to, like, he's got nothing left to get out of the staff, and he's trying to will things into existence. Like, I believe in you guys, we're all together, we're all a team, we're all pulling in one direction. It's like, Stuart said, he doesn't really believe it, but he's trying to will it into existence, and it feels like we are so fragile. I don't doubt, like, there's plenty of blame to go around. I'm not a big fan of that phrase, but I think it's true for this particular season. The players have taken a bit of a kicking, but so many of them have seemed to just sort of are void of ideas, but also they're kind of shirking the responsibilities, and it all kind of adds up together to a sort of amalgamation of shite, which we're witnessing. Yeah,
I think I completely agree with all that. I just think, just looking at some of the comments, he's, now you have to show everyone that you want to be a winner, that you want to stay, you want to fight, and that you want to make the club successful. That's the message. We've got a really good group here. And listen, I understand that he's got to come out fighting a little bit after a 2-2 draw at Tynecastle. I think as we did the reaction after the game, the Cynic.co, we did the reaction after the Hearts game, and me, you, Barry did it, and our good friend Eddie, and we were quite downbeat about a 2-2 draw at Tynecastle that any other season would be fine at this point if we were further ahead and we were really fighting and we were fighting fit, but it didn't feel like that, and it feels like I think McGregor would have been better coming out and being a little bit more truthful. I know there's a huge section of support, maybe more the support than us. Maybe we're the outliers who like the idea of him coming out saying we're going to fight for this title and we're going to, we've got a really good group here who really want to make it work and all that sort of stuff. I would prefer if he came out and went, look, standards aren't high, standards aren't where they should be, standards are in the mud, but we need to raise that. We're working behind the scenes. We're really trying to make it happen because what we're producing isn't good enough. I think a level of truthfulness, which maybe is naive me saying that because maybe he'll never say that, and there's also a part of that fine, because if we do win the title, he can turn around and say, well, it doesn't really matter what I said. But I find it quite frustrating, and I also find there's just a lot of try harder, fuck's sake. Going to just this is we've said that a number of times. There's a lot of personalities in that Celtic side and this Celtic squad that I just think wouldn't have a chance under some of the teams over the last 10 to 15 years. Like the fact that someone like I not to pick on McCowan, right? But McCowan talking about when under Nancy and talking about how it wasn't working and saying stuff in a very direct way to the support. You would get lynched under fucking the Sutton and Hartsons, and you don't speak out a fucking ton, and I just think there's a lot of players in this squad that just wouldn't come close to being near Celtic squads of the last 10 to 15 years. And I'm not even squads not that far back, but they're front and centre. And you can't replace everyone in this window, and that's the problem. So yeah, I agree, this Celtic side aren't classic.
That's been very kind to them. The sort of format of tonight's show, we're going to look at some news, and it's ever evolving since we put the rundown together. There's been more sort of transfer links and other bits of news. We'll touch briefly on Sunday's game again. We'll look ahead to Utrecht and Falkirk, and we'll get some questions that we'll kind of pepper throughout the show. But Stuart, news came out yesterday that Austin Trustee's appeal was rejected. Was it any surprise to you, given what we know about the SFA?
No, definitely not, because I think ultimately there is a culture, certainly around VAR in Scotland, that you are just backing your colleague. Obviously, there was quite a high-profile one in the Man City game this week, where there was a first-time ref in the Premier League who went to the monitor and was just like, "No, I'm sticking by my decision," and everyone was like, "Oh!" aghast, up in arms, how dare he, when he's pretty accurate. It was a subjective decision, he'd got it right on the pitch, and so he went with that. And I think that the nature of VAR, you just will not see someone have the gumption to do that in Scotland. One, because I don't think that the standard of officiating is high enough for anyone to really, with all confidence, be like, I know exactly where I am, the confidence in my abilities, that I've got that right. And two, it's a lot about, keeping up appearances. And so I think you might still end up with a Willie Collum apology later down the line, or they probably can't. Maybe they're backed into not being able to do that with this particular incident. So no, I was not surprised. I don't think it's a good decision. I think it's not a popular thing to say, but Trusty got away with one earlier in the season where he probably should have been sent off, and I suppose in that regard it's evened out, and it's evened out in a way where a draw has not been fatal. The things when it comes to refereeing decisions, that has obviously grabbed the headlines, but the refereeing across the game was just atrocious. Both in terms of, I felt it was very much dominated by the home crowd, but just as a spectacle, when you watch games like that now, the stop-start nature of it, if you watch any other football, if you go and watch Champions League tonight, if you watch the English Premier League, I know that there's incomparable amounts of money put in behind that, but just the sort of standards of just trying to let the game flow. And every time, I almost feel like if I've watched a game like Celtic Hearts, if I then turn on and watch Arsenal Man United, I'll see a challenge and immediately expect that they're going to blow up for that, and they let it run, and I'm like, oh yeah, you can just do that. You can just allow it to be a physical game, or to just try and get some semblance of play. Obviously, we've talked about it ad nauseum that, the way that referees set the tone in certain games, it just meant that almost any kind of physical contact was a stop-start, free kick, set-piece game, which played right into Hearts' hands. And that's just like one side of it. Obviously, I thought Celtic were incredibly naive, but the way that the game was officiated throughout was just dreadful, and it made for an awful spectacle, and then probably a decision that you can't guarantee that it cost us 2 points, because Celtic absolutely had it within them to concede anyway, but it's a big talking point.
Yeah, it certainly is, and as you say, like, we were sort of under the cosh anyway, but it certainly doesn't help when you remove your centre half. But Gal, as Stuart says, I can't really remember off the top of my head where a referee in Scotland has stuck with a decision that he's made. There probably will be examples, but I can't think of too many high-profile ones. But for yourself, did you expect the appeal to be successful, or was it as is?
I didn't expect the appeal to be successful. It's shocking. I mean, I'm not someone who kind of often looks outside of our media, like as in the Scottish football kind of bubble, in terms of like when it comes to the decisions within it. But if you do look at all the ex kind of referees like making the comment about, it's not a red card, here's why it's not a red card. I think it's the referee on the pitch saw exactly on play, on field, what happened and made the decision, and that should be it. I don't think there was any clear and obvious error. I think he made the decision. I think it was the right decision. They're obviously always going to look at it because it's a potential red card. But you watch it back and you're just, see, when you watch something and it's like, okay, that proves the decision is right, and then they flip it and it's almost like you're living in a parallel universe. Stu?
One thing that I just feel like it's not really mentioned, it looks like there's next to no contact.
Yeah.
Like, we see when the images are slowed down and stuff like that, I completely agree. It doesn't look like the ball's even going to, either by virtue of the pace on the pass or the direction, that it's going to even end up in the box by the time Kabori catches up to it, by which point you would hope Murray gets across, or even still, it's not necessarily like clear-cut goal-scoring opportunity, but it just doesn't look like Trusty instigates much contact. You can see that he thinks about it and kind of doesn't, and then the guy does play for it, and it's just a bad decision, and it's quite a costly one.
I think also the thing is the Scottish Sky Sports coverage in terms of the pundits. Craig Levein saying he would have taken a touch and he would have shot and it probably would have went in from there, and you're like, are you joking? Have you watched this guy play this game? Because he was absolutely pish. Like, his first touch was terrible. Sorry, Barry.
Do you know what that reminded me of? Remember, in fact, I'm sure it was a game that we all watched in the Admiral where it was Celtic Alloa, wasn't it? And Connor Salmon, John Hartson kept saying they should have scored from there when he had to shut for half.
He's in his own half, I know.
That made me think of that, and it's just ridiculous. And then obviously you've got clowns like Boyd, and then McInnes talking about, oh, it's a shock that Celtic got a red card domestically. Like, that coverage just is childish and just unhelpful. But yeah, other news is that there was a statement from the Celtic Collective that came out on Monday night, directed towards Michael Nicholson, and it had the quote from Michael Nicholson in November, where he spoke about the objectives in the summer transfer window. We didn't achieve all of them. We made some mistakes along the way. We're not happy with where we are. It's not where we want to be, and we understand the frustrations and anger because we share them. We accept responsibility for that. And then there was sort of points directed, Stu, at Michael Nicholson, that he'd overseen a disastrous summer window where we didn't qualify for the Champions League, defended Tisdale after a poor window a year ago, taken 6 weeks to replace Rodgers, which was Nancy, and then the disaster there. Turned to Martin O'Neill to salvage the season, but they haven't backed him. And at the time of writing, we're 28 days into the window, and we've acquired 2 loan signings. With, as we mentioned earlier, the squad is probably the weakest that it's been in, probably I would argue, our Celtic supporting life. So, yeah, I think his position's untenable, but you never know what's going to happen because these guys seem like bulletproof at times.
Yeah, I think it's not a controversial thing to say that that's an untenable position. I suspect that it's not a position that even Michael Nicholson really wants to be in anymore. He's not cut out for this job, and it's Celtic fans that are really bearing the brunt for this wide-scale level of incompetence that's going on at the club. And definitely the one thing that we had to get right this window was probably getting players in a timely fashion, and that yet again we've not done. And I understand that you have systems in place that have been ripped out of the club, but that is again because of the incompetencies of the people that, you know, have made these very same mistakes. I think it will be interesting to see what happens in the coming, let's say, 2-3 weeks. If Celtic drop points in the league, if we don't qualify for Europe, if they really don't get any more business done than say they get one additional loan player or something like that, they really, what statement will they hit out with then? There's not really a leg to stand on. And I suspect that before the season's out, you would hope that there's some sort of announcement that he's going, or that they're going to clear house, because it's just almost unfathomable that could go on for like another season or into the summer with the amount of upheaval that you've got. And any success that Celtic can claw together this season will be 100% in spite of these men, and not one moment because of them. Yeah,
couldn't agree more. And it feels like it has to happen, Gal. But what's your kind of thoughts on the statements from the collective and Michael Nicholson in general? I
think the collective are, obviously there's a big meeting coming up where they'll get all the kind of people who signed the statement and people who are involved in the collective to kind of sit down and think about next steps. I know there's probably frustration with people with things not moving as quickly as they'd like, but it's not a sprint. It's a long-term thing. There's a part of me that thinks sit back at the moment and never interrupt your enemy when they're making a mistake. And I think that the board are making huge mistakes by not making pertinent acquisitions and not making plans for the future. And the fact is, I think the collective is still in its infancy, and I think it can grow, and I think it can develop, and I think it's something that will, I think, become a really important part of the Celtic support and fandom. In terms of Michael Nicholson, what can I add more? I don't think the guy's cut out for the job. I think that a lot of the issues in terms of running throughout the club from top to bottom, there's just what we need from a CEO perspective. A club like Celtic in Scotland, which is the biggest club in Scotland by quite some distance. We need someone with vision. And we need someone with not only vision from a inward-looking perspective, but also from an outward-looking perspective. We need someone who's going to look at the brand and present the brand to people in a way that it deserves to be presented. I always feel like Celtic are reticent to, show themselves off as being this. I think we're run like a bowling club. That's it. We're run like a bowling club, and what we need someone to come in, have a bit of vision, and really take us forward. Because football's moving on so quickly, and maybe we have already missed the boat. But if we haven't missed the boat, we're on a small lifeboat behind the boat, and the line is drawn thin. So we need someone to pull the line so we catch up to the boat. So we need a fisherman. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, I think that it's weird, just like when you're talking there about the personalities in the board, and they are very sort of apologetic and don't want to get ideas above their station and sort of shy and retiring. But the only thing that isn't shy and retiring is their salaries. They're happy to take the big salary without putting their big boy pants on and facing up to the responsibility that they have.
You know when you come into Prestwick Airport and there's that big sign that says best weest country in the world or something, like biggest weest country, and it's like that sums up the Celtic board's view of Celtic. We're such a big club, but we're in Scotland, so sorry.
What's the other thing? Pure dead brilliant. We're pure dead shite. That should be the Celtic board's mantra. Stu, you want to come in there?
No, just agree, it's shite.
Okay.
So's Prestwick Airport while we're at it, just shots fired.
True. Well, the King was once there, wasn't he? Of the King. Of your King is Elvis Presley. Leads us on to transfers. So there was a report from Stephen McGowan a couple of days ago about Sean Maloney, Mark Cooper and James Bell-Walker heading up Celtic's recruitment. Kind of painted a picture of them kind of locked in rooms on phones trying to contact scouts, agents, whatever you would have. In some ways, Stu, it's embarrassing for a club of our size, but it's almost like it's a necessity because we don't have these processes in place. The big sort of transfer link this week was Casper Ho. I don't know if I'm saying that right, or Hugh, whatever. Who plays, I believe, his last game tonight for Bodo against Atletico. But since putting this rundown together, it seems like Norwich have bid €8 million for him. So would you imagine that would rule us out?
Yeah, I don't. So I was messaging in one of the group chats earlier about this, that the common sense thing to do for a club of Celtic size, with the finances that we have, and also when you consider just how little money that we've spent between these two windows for a club of our size, and with the income that we've generated in the last however many years, would be to say £7 million for. There is no such thing as a sure thing, like a nailed on success story. But you've got a player there who just as recently as last week tore the Man City defence apart. He was the top scorer in the Europa League last year, I think, when Bodo went to the semis. Again, Ross Dersman's comments about this unbridgeable gap, laughable in the face of the achievements of that club. That should be an open and shut. Just go and get him, appease the fans by spending a very adequate, normal amount of money to sign a player of that calibre in 2026. And then you've also got one massive job taken off the table for what is going to be this enormous rebuild situation that you have in the summer. And they might look at it like, we've not got a permanent manager and we've not this. But, if you can sell the idea of him being the main man at a club of Celtic stature, who can still go on and achieve things in Europe on a European stage this year if he wants, and if we can get it all together, that should be like a pretty straightforward thing to do. But you have a Norwich side who, I would never normally give credit to Philip Clement, are quite resurgent under Philip Clement, but still very much in the bottom half of the Championship, and will either blow us out the water with their ambition or with their willingness to just pony up and pay the money. And the third option, I suppose, is just that he'll just sit where he is, because I think the Bodo, either chairman or manager, it must have been the chairman, came out and was like, yeah, we're completely open to sell. We're a selling club. He said that they either make money from player sales or from, competing in Europe. So they are a selling club. That's how their business model works. the time has come for this player to move on. They're willing to sell to someone that's going to do business. So Celtic aren't going to get gouged for like 12, 13, 14 million pounds. It will literally be if they're willing to pay wages and if they can sell it. And I just don't think that. I think between the two clubs, genuinely Norwich would be more ambitious than Celtic in terms of they want to become a Premier League club, they want to have a future. Whereas I just think Celtic have like their thumb up their arse, not knowing quite what they want to do. And the whole thing is, it's like a squirrel, it's this whole look over here, we're trying hard. It's Chris Garden, it's any one of these players that it's just not going to happen.
Yeah, and ironically, that's where Chris Garden is as well, isn't it? Norwich, they've obviously got the same scouting database as us.
It's called Football Manager 2024-25.
Yeah, the same one that Airdrie use apparently as well. Gall, would that striker appeal to you? Do you think it's the sort of profile that would be good for us? Like as Stuart says, obviously put in a standout performance against Man City a couple of weeks ago, but I suppose would he appeal to you, and do you think it will happen?
It's not going to happen. I mean, Celtic aren't going to pay any. I don't think we're going to make a permanent transfer on this window for the rest of the time. I think it will be loans with either options to buy or just straight out loans. Would he appeal? Yeah, I mean, it's one of those where I think that where I thought we would be after, if you said to me 90 minutes after the Bayern Munich second leg when we'd be knocked out, if you said that we'd be in the January window, we'd be signing a Bodo Glimt striker for £7 million to supplement the strikers we already had at the club, I would be like, okay, that sounds good. Okay, sure. We'll bring in a guy who potentially could come in and could be the number one after the main guy we've got just now moves on in the summer. Because we've obviously signed a really good striker in the summer there, and he's so good that he'll only stay for a year. So January, we'll bring in this £7 million guy who will replace the guy that's currently the guy in the summer. That's how I would have thought it would work. Now, take anyone. Literally take anyone. I will take anyone. I just want Celtic to buy players because I cannot fathom going the rest of the next 4 or 5 months watching these players consistently make an arse of it over and over again. I'd rather a new guy make an arse of it over again, I guess. But, does he fit the profile of what I would like a Celtic striker to be? He fits the profile of the guy who comes in to supplement the squad and then potentially goes on. It's just, the point is, I think our standards are so low and so in the ground that anyone appeals. Can anyone come in and be the Celtic number 9 now? Aye. Johnny Kenny was the Celtic number 9 for 2 months. Johnny Kenny.
Yeah, as you say, the standards are low. It's like that meme, isn't it? Our expectations were low, but holy fuck.
Holy fuck. I've got a question. Can I bring?
Yeah, fire it. Yep.
Yeah. So this question came in from Russell. He contacted and he says, "Hi folks, hope you're all keeping well. Is Celtic's horrific transfer strategy a result of, number one, sheer and utter incompetence from the boardroom that stems from stupidity, arrogance and needless penny pinching and haggling? Number two, not wanting to spend big to support an interim, albeit legend, of a manager? Number three, something else entirely? I think it's probably number one, but keen to hear your thoughts. Thanks for all you guys do for the content during these dark times." So I'll just throw that out to whoever wants to take it.
Yeah, I think probably number one as well. We've often said sort of countless times that when you have non-footballing people trying to initially influence footballing decisions and then completely take over them, where they're disregarding the knowledge of people who work in football or people employed by the club. How often have we heard about employees being frustrated at not being allowed to do their job because Peter Lawwell or someone else was micromanaging them, and then trying to get the perfect deal, trying to shave a bit of money off every deal to say, haha, we had them where we wanted them, we're Celtic, we'll do what we want. And years of that sort of coupled with getting away with it with some gems. I can't remember who said it on a pod a few weeks ago, but the Celtic board still think because they got Virgil van Dijk for 2.6 million, sold him on for 13 million. They didn't end up paying anything for Victor Wanyama. I think he went for about 12. All those deals, and then it sort of led to Dembele for 20 million, Tierney for 25, and we've kind of had that sort of Jota, Matt O'Reilly, or whatever. And not even those, even the smaller deals, like it's probably up until recently the one thing that we maybe thought that they did well, that they managed to move some players on at the right time. Getting 10 million for Kyogo was probably the right time to do it, and there's lesser amounts as well, but your luck will run out when you don't have good people in the right positions who are there by merit. Like, what have these people achieved to get to the position of making these decisions at Celtic? I often think, and it's often been said as well, that you would imagine their knowledge of football out with Celtic is very limited. And if that's the case, there's ways around that. You can delegate to people who do know markets, and that's probably why we had so much success under Ange and his agent, Frank Tamboli. But not putting proper processes in place has led to where we are. Like, I was talking probably about a month ago now to people in my work who were almost like, why is it turned so quickly for Celtic? But this has been years in the making. Like, we've been saying for... I remember we did like a series of pods, I remember during COVID, about how we could restructure this or reshape the structure of Celtic, and we spoke about like how we could engage fans and a footballing department, etc. None of those things have happened, and that's like 6 years ago. So it's maybe a shock to outsiders looking in, like sort of shock jocks on Talksport, it's all gone wrong for Celtic. But this has been a sort of slow decay that's kind of been rotting for years, and now it's finally there's been a light shone on it. So the worry for me is, I don't think this is going to be a quick fix. As we all said, we need multiple players in this window, and it might be a sticking plaster. Someone who might hit the ground running, but I have major concerns that we are going to be a rotten carcass for quite a while yet, and it's going to take us a bit of time to get out of that. Even if we did somehow manage to clump together a title win this year, because if we did, and God willing we do, because we always want to win a title, I think it would cloud the board even more to say, we can phone it in and still win the title. That is
a terrifying point. Stu, I've got a question for you as well, and we're just doing it. This is the question bit, so I'll give it to you. This is from Jan. Jan says, good morning, folks, from a windy, wet and grey Aberdeen. A question I thought for you all. Has anyone checked if Dermot Desmond has taken January as a holiday? It would explain a lot. Following on from the debrief of the Hearts game, so we did a debrief podcast that drops every Tuesday where we broke down the Hearts game from a tactics and stats point of view. I was pretty shocked to hear the stats showing how poorly our midfield played. I was of the opinion that this was our strongest aspect of our team. McGregor, Engels and Hatate struggling to get a pass completion of over 50% and being dominated by the Hearts midfield is worrying. How does this compare to 12 months ago? Whilst they aren't the most physical players, they have enough class that they shouldn't be getting bullied off the ball as easy as this. I think the failure of the midfield on Sunday shows how stark the rebuild is. We can't have Benjamin Nygren as our best midfielder. He's pish. I don't care how many goals he scored, he can't pass the ball, always gets caught in possession and is riddled with pig hunt energy. Okay, Jan. Anyway, loving the pod, great bunch of lads, all the best. Stu, obviously that's, the midfield. What's your thoughts on the midfield on Sunday, sorry?
So that kind of leans in a little bit to one of my, I think what I was most disappointed by, and coming away from it, even days later, it felt like a defeat, even though in the context of the league from a points perspective, it's a really good point, because with the exception of the Rangers game at the start of March, it's your last really, really difficult away game. And that's not to take anything away from teams like Motherwell. I just mean, at Hearts, you're playing a team bang in form who really are on the cusp of something incredibly special for them as a group of players, as a club, and an incredibly toxic environment. So it's a very tall order. So a point is not the worst result. But what almost broke my heart was just the way that Celtic played. And I think that I'm trying to think of the most eloquent way to put what I was trying to describe at the top of the show, that almost in that team's DNA now, they don't have it in them to control a game, whether it's to try and play through the lines, and when you're asking specifically about the midfield, it was non-existent. The ball didn't go in there at all over the course of the game. And the amount of times in the first half, especially, that Celtic would just shell it long to try and get back into position is genuinely the way that Dundee, Livingston, any team, St Mirren, play against us at Celtic Park. And to see how far we've fallen against Hearts have been really effective this season. They're very robust. They're not an amazing footballing team. I think if they'd had Cammy Devlin, Beningame and Shankland, we would have been out of sight beaten at the weekend. I think that the Celtic players, the Celtic midfield, don't have the comfort and confidence to take the ball and play through the lines and put up with pressure, physical pressure of any kind. So it's almost like a non-starter. But what has been quite fascinating between Nancy's Celtic and Martin O'Neill's Celtic second term around is that, well, for Nancy, obviously it was catastrophic defensively because of this system they were being asked to play, because of certain players that were being asked to play in roles that they're not familiar with. But middle to front, it was as good and as exciting as we've seen. And now that the players have been asked to essentially simplify their game, be more direct. Obviously, there was some pretty weak defending at the weekend, but statistically, over O'Neill's run, we've been far, far, far more robust and resilient. But middle to front, we just don't look like we can offer anything.
Nothing.
And so I think it's just a combination of it's a mess. There is no system here that's going to bring out the best, or the players that we have there. And personnel-wise, what could you have done at the weekend? We could have played Reo Hatate. Reo Hatate has looked as poor as anyone this season, I think. I think he's been absolutely terrible. I know he scored against Bologna, but even before his insane red card, just cannot be trusted on the ball, cannot tolerate pressure of any kind.
Do you think any of them can you think any of them can be trusted on the ball?
No, but it's just such simple, basic stuff that we can't complete passes, and now we've got this unwillingness to even try. And there's absolutely a world where Celtic can win the league, and I think maybe we'll talk about it as we look at the kind of bigger picture. The next 4 games, very, very interesting. And if you ask us again at the start of March, maybe just before that Rangers game, I think the picture will probably look quite different, because you have either Hearts or Rangers that will drop points because they're playing each other in those 4 games, and Hearts have 3 really difficult games, Rangers have 3 really difficult games. If they come through them with no points, then maybe that's that. Maybe we win our 4 games and it's even. But it's not the points, and it's not that we're third. It's all this other stuff that we just cannot do the basics, and we cannot cope with any sort of physical pressure.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's hard to kind of sort of find the positives for the on or the off-field stuff just now. But just more, as Gal mentioned, the Hearts game has been covered extensively on the Cynic.co. But just to kind of get our sort of viewpoints on it, we've touched on it a lot already, but Gal, it's probably a difficult question, but did you take any positives from it? And what was your sort of thoughts on Chivan Chara?
I guess the positive I would take is that we didn't lose the game. Obviously we went down to 10 men, so we played with like 10, 12 minutes with 10 men, so you can look at that from a point of view of a little bit more determined. They maybe did dig deep. Chivan Chara, I thought how they were trying to utilise him, I think this is probably everyone's probably of the same kind of thought. I thought how he performed in the build-up for the second goal with the ball down the channel and him running onto it is probably more akin to how he will want to play. He was very physical, he was very robust. Maybe someone has to have a word with him about challenging and when to challenge and to be a little bit more sneaky, because that one where he literally, I don't know if it was what you call him, Finlay or Halkett, where he's looking at him, but when the ball's in the air he's just looking straight at him and runs right into him. Maybe a little bit more, a bit head screwed on a wee bit more. But no, I think there's certainly positives to take from him. My fear with him is maybe not playing to his strengths. I'm not sure he's the guy that you play the ball to feet, he holds up and he drops it off around the corner to runners. Maybe he can play off Iheanacho. If Iheanacho, I know he was training today. So the fact that we didn't lose the game, the fact that Steven Chara looks something fuck up, Stuart.
It's hard to hear it.
What's his name?
Thomas Chvanchara.
Chvanchara.
Like, think of the white van man, but it's the white Chvan man.
Chivan.
I'll call him Tomas. I'll just call him Tomas. But no, Tomas looks like he's going to be a real positive. Is he looks different from anything we have up front. So that's certainly something that we can work with. We didn't concede. That's good. Other than that, I thought the Araujo was good at right back.
So I was going to ask you.
I thought he performed pretty damn well. Schmeichel made some saves.
Yeah, we're struggling after that, aren't we? But I think, just building on what Gal said there, Stu, like, I thought Araujo looked competent. The one thing that maybe we'd heard about him before he came was that he was good going forward, but a wee bit sort of ropey defensively, typical Celtic signing of a defender. But I thought from what I've seen from him so far, he looks quite good. He looks decent in the air as well for someone that's not the tallest. And it's amazing that just freshening up the squad, what it can do for us. Imagine if we could have more of that.
It is, and I guess that's one sort of slither of light, that if you could bring in 2 or 3 bodies that could offer you that in other areas of the pitch, then yeah, it might bring other people in from the cold a bit as well, and takes a bit of burden off people that are maybe feeling it, whether or not they are sort of carrying the team. I thought that Chvanchara, I've seen varying reports of people being like quite disappointed. Tom English like ripped into him in his article, which I thought was extremely bizarre, but whatever. I mean, what do you expect? I thought, given the fact that he came 3 days prior, had maybe met his teammates like twice, had one training session, I thought he did really, really well. See the quality for Yang's goal. Maeda all game was like a barn door, and that 1-2 is not by design. That's just come off Maeda like that. And I think the way that he's handled it, how many times have you seen players this season, whether it's Maeda, Yang, Taneki, Balikwisha, any of them breaking through, and you're like, what's going to happen here? And it's just the wrong decision, cut back, completely fuck it, straight out. And he just put in this perfectly measured cross, went exactly where it needed to go, cleared his man. You're like, that's brilliant. And I feel like the way that the game finished, there's not been much made of like his chance as well, like with the exception of the goal that Hearts went on to score. That's the best chance of the game, and that's a guy who's come in with like one training session and done that. I thought he was pretty naive where he was trying to like pop it off every time the ball came into him.
Aye.
But I think that can be coached really quickly, where it's like, we don't need you to do that. We need you to just take a touch and hold it up.
I think they've told him to do that, though. That's my concern.
To pop it off? Well, maybe who knows what you're going to get if Daisameda. Maybe sometimes that is the perfect thing, but goodness me, he was dreadful. And anyway, I think, yeah, just that freshness, having different options. And obviously, like today, when you're talking about Iheanacho back training, Sirachi back training, getting a couple of bodies back just makes such a massive difference, because you can rotate, or you have just the option of now, when he goes off at 60 minutes, you don't have to play this absolute loose cannon as your number 9. You can bring on a like-for-like striker and continue to play the way that you've been playing. The same with Tierney, like you don't have to run him into the ground. And also having like a 6'3" striker, and the way that Sirachi was delivering balls before he got injured,
Good point.
It seems like a pretty good recipe for goals.
Good point.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, and I know that he mentioned on Friday in the press conference that one of his biggest attributes is pace, and I thought he showed a really good turn of pace to get away from the defender to set up Yang. So yeah, that's positive, and I'm looking forward to seeing him on Sunday.
Do you not think he looked a lot like Sutton, like gait-wise, when he ran? I thought he really reminded me of Sutton.
Even the long sleeve shirt as well.
Yeah.
Like,
how he crossed the ball in was very Sutton-esque.
kind of wraps his foot right. Yeah.
I wonder if one of the reasons that you're still seeing all these links to strikers, obviously, I mean, he is currently the only fit striker at the club, which is absolutely insane, having been there for 3 days and being a loan signing. I wonder if O'Neill maybe has, in the sort of dinosaur part of his brain, wants to play 2 up top, and maybe that's why. And I don't know, 4-4-2 it.
Happy to try anything different, to be honest with you.
Yeah,
that's it. Yeah,
can I interest you in Wilfred Nancy if you want something different?
Oh, good.
No thanks.
I saw that he might be going to
San Etienne. Good for him. Oh, we wish him the best.
Yes. Just before we turn our attention, kind of lastly, to the Utrecht game tomorrow night, some other transfer links. There's one just as we started recording about Nice, Nigerian striker Terem Moffi. He'd previously joined Nice for a 26 million fee only 3 seasons ago.
6'2".
6'2", get it in the fucking mixer.
That's it. Fucking get the ball in the box, for fuck's sake.
He's got 4 goals and 19 appearances for Nigeria.
I've just seen that Porto and Besiktas are also interested, so...
we can
write
that off. Other stuff, Gal, today was that Celtic rejected a loan move from a club in Denmark for Paulo Bernardo, and Rio Hatate's sort of gaining interest from teams in England and other teams in Europe. Stu mentioned earlier about we might be blindsided by a departure that we weren't expected, but I don't know about you, but kind of similar to the activity that you guys did on the agenda, like, there's not many that I would miss now. And I know you don't want to weaken us even further, but I'm kind of done with some of these players.
Yeah, I am too, in terms of I just think we've came to, I think the natural progression for guys like Daizen Maeda and Rio Hatate, probably looking back on it, would have been the summer. I think if we were a fully functioning, well-intentioned football club, they would have been moved on with plans put in place the January before it. That's not the case. Paulo Bernardo just doesn't play. He just doesn't play, and when he does come on,
he still doesn't play.
Still doesn't play. He doesn't really play. I mean, people will be like, well, I feel sorry for him in that I think, you're talking about someone who's the captain of the Portuguese under-21s. He was at Benfica. He's obviously got something, right? And you could argue that he hasn't fit for any of the managers that we've had, and it's just unluck. And the next guy could come in. Roberto Martinez could say he's the guy that's going to drive the midfield for us. But at this case in point, it doesn't feel like that. I mean, someone like Bernardo, if I heard that Bernardo tomorrow went away on loan, I'd probably shrug my shoulders. If I heard that Rio Hatate left...
Michael Nicholson over here.
If I heard that Rio Hatate left, I would be far more concerned, just because I think he plays. I think the frustration between Rio Hatate's inconsistency and the frustration between what Nygren offers you other than scoring goals, it's like the scales of justice, like we don't know how it's going to fall. And the fact of the matter is, I'd rather have Rio Hatate in the building than not, but that's only if we don't bring anyone in. I just don't think we're going to bring anyone in. So I'd rather have... if Rio Hatate goes, it means that they must be bringing someone else in. And if he doesn't go, they won't be, because I just don't think... We just need the bodies, and it's as simple. It's just numbers at this point.
I can't wait to see Hatate in a bad mood if he doesn't get his move. See what that does to his performance level.
His move to Wrexham.
That's a good move.
Yes.
Yeah, that's why he'd be upset.
That's a good point.
Yeah, we're on the same page. We're on the same page.
Yeah. Stu, would you be... What would your thoughts be on either of those two leaving?
Honestly, there's not a single player in that team that could leave that I would be disappointed by, and I mean that there's that, and that's the apathy speaking. Where, that's the apathy speaking. Where obviously, in terms of a warm body, they need replaced, but probably the most integral player in that squad right now is Benjamin Nygren, because he's the only one that's consistently scoring goals. That's a statement that can hang on its own, and you can draw your own conclusions from that. But yeah, that's the reality of it. I think I would just love them to go out and supplement the midfield with a good footballer. And some of the players that we're linked with, these are not
good football.
Crazy. No, it's not crazy amounts of money you're talking about, but it feels like there's like an unwillingness to commit to coming to the table right now. And I don't know whether it's like, oh, we need to get the right one. It's like, well, yeah, obviously, but you've done the work up to this point. You just have to pull the trigger, because pretty soon you're going to get various sort of transfer carousels kicking off, from X moves to Y moves to Z, and you're just going to be left. And you saw how chaotic it was at the end, where you've got Yang in fucking Birmingham, you can't sell him, and you've got Ida going to Swansea and coming back because you can't buy a striker, and they don't have the capabilities to do it, especially when the entire fucking team that are organising the transfers have a game on Sunday. They have to be there to sort that out. So
don't you think it's bizarre? Like, say, I know, like, we can cut through all the, there's no processes, and we're bad at negotiating, but don't you think it is just bizarre that after such a disastrous last two windows, the last two windows have been absolutely disastrous, don't you think that they would have thought, oh fuck, here, by the way, we better do something for this January, just because if nothing else the hordes will be at the door demanding change, or that we can't. I find it thoroughly bizarre that they think they can poke and prod us enough to the point that nothing will come back to them, because ultimately we pay season tickets, we pay tickets, we buy, obviously we're doing the no penny more stuff just now with not buying any merchandise, but like we are paying for the football club, and the fact that they think they can treat us like this, it's like, when do we storm the Bastille? I don't know.
Yeah, I know what you mean, and it's crazy. Like, I think probably in years to come, you'll think, like, why did we put up with that? And you mentioned there the not another penny. It's almost as if that's personally aggrieved Desmond, that he's implementing his own not another penny in terms of signing any players, because, as we've said, all the talk is of loans, and I don't buy into that narrative that, because we've got an interim manager, we have to just bring in loans because the next manager might not want the players. But some of our biggest success stories of having new managers is them reinvigorating players that were there. You look at O'Neill, he didn't buy that initially when he first came in 2000. He bought Sutton and Valharan, but it wasn't until a few months later that the likes of Agat and Thompson came in. But likes of Lambert, Mialby, Larson, obviously McNamara, and Petrov, all prospered under O'Neill. And there's countless examples of new managers coming in relying on the players that were there. So I don't buy that, but it's just so frustrating. It feels like we're powerless. And yeah, it'll be interesting to see what happens at the meeting on Tuesday, as you mentioned, Gal.
Barry, I've got a question that leads into Utrecht, if you like.
Okay.
This is the last question of today. This is from Robert. Robert says, after watching and thinking about the game on Sunday and the way we were completely outplayed for large sections of it, I have pretty much lost confidence in this team. Question 1. Do we even want to win on Thursday and force ourselves into more games in a tournament we have zero chance of winning when our title rivals are resting midweek? Question 2, at what point do we start supporting Hearts to win the league, as I feel we can compete with them next year on an even footing? Because the prospect of Rangers winning the league, automatic Champions League and 40 million prize fund, while we scramble around in the Conference League, is terrifying. It means the 15 years of dominance has been totally wiped out in a single season, and we could be heading into the wilderness for many years to come. Sorry to be so apocalyptic, but given the current structure of the club and all the negatives that brings, I fail to see how we turn this around. Tell me I'm wrong! And he does a wee emoji face.
I think he raises some really good points there. I was reading some of the stuff O'Neill had said earlier about... He was talking about transfers, and he said that we need more bodies in, because if we are to go through tomorrow night, then that obviously brings more games and the opportunity to register 3 players. But yeah, part of me's thinking, would it be beneficial for us to go out? Like, obviously it wouldn't add to... It would add to the bad feeling if we weren't to qualify tomorrow, because of where we're sitting and what a win would do. But long term, it's maybe not the best thing for us. Yeah, and just the kind of second point there, that the question laid out is kind of similar to what I was saying earlier. I do have this feeling that we could be in the wilderness for a few years, and if Rangers are to get that money, and even if they aren't, because they seem to be getting their house in order, and obviously Hearts are as well. So the danger is that we get left behind domestically, not even in European terms.
Stu?
I think that obviously in terms of games, it's not ideal to have them mounting up, but I feel quite weird about the Europa League where did you not think that this is another thing that's really bugging me with the Celtic team, that it doesn't matter at the moment whether we're winning games, it doesn't feel like we generate any momentum. Do you not think that first half hour in Bologna, Celtic were like really good though?
Yeah.
And the way that they pressed and the way that they handled situations was sort of like a Celtic team. And obviously because everything that happened at the weekend, we haven't really reflected on that game, and I'm not suggesting that we have some sort of inquest now, but I wonder if there's certain players that are like trying harder in Europe, or perhaps fancy it a bit more, or whether, you know how every year when Celtic win the league and you're just sitting baffled how an objectively poor Rangers team can run into the depths of the European competition. I don't know, I just have a feeling like that. What could that happen? Is that a thing that can happen? It's like, I don't know. And yeah, again, if you are only a couple of extra players away from maybe getting this team to click and just be a bit more competitive, I genuinely don't think that the standard in the Europa League is that high that you couldn't find your way through two-legged ties against some teams that starts to create a bit of positive feeling. And I think that if things don't go your way domestically and there's very little to play for, then maybe you would really luxuriate in having some sort of European run if it was at all possible. So I don't think that it's something that we should give up on so lightly, especially when on paper it's a very winnable game tomorrow night.
What are you talking about, Stuart? Come on, what are you doing? I love it. Listen, I love the positivity, and I'm not saying you're wrong.
None of it's based on like I think Celtic are going to go and win the Europa League.
Look, I'm taking it back. You say that a minute ago. Celtic to win the Europa League and qualify for the Champions League automatically. You literally said that.
Boom.
Well, wouldn't that be really annoying when Hearts finally win the league and like, well, unfortunately Celtic have won the Europa League, so that's much more impressive.
I see what you're saying. I totally understand and I totally get it. I think we could end up, just with how things work out, beating Utrecht tomorrow and getting winnable ties and like getting a weird winnable, but it'll be even worse when we don't.
At the moment, like, we're going to play Porto, which brings its own O'Neill full circle.
But we don't know fun. Because there's still so many variables with it.
Parts.
Yeah.
So in terms, obviously, the game tomorrow, 8 o'clock kickoff. Araujo and Chvanchara, did I say that right, Stu?
Nailed it, mate.
Boom. It's a pity I nailed it when he's not even in contention tomorrow. There'll be this weird window watch with the new European format. You mentioned earlier, Stu, about Iracho and Sirachi and training today. I know that Kieran Tierney trained as well. Dare I use the phrase having Iracho and Sirachi back? It's like two new signings.
That's what Michael Nicholson said this morning. I'm sure when I saw them on the grass. Brilliant to have them back. Obviously, you won't expect either of them to start, but to just be able to get minutes and get in and around the squad, maybe be back for the weekend, perhaps, that's really, really good, because Kieran Tierney's legs might fall off if he has to keep trying to play 90 minutes. And obviously, you have to go to the well one last time with fucking Tanecki on the left, Maeda up front, and just hope that something comes together. I think the fact that they're back at Celtic Park is probably quite a big thing. They certainly look much better there under O'Neill than they have anyone else.
Also, O'Neill's first home European game since an Irish spell since coming back.
Oh, that's interesting. I didn't know that. Well, there you go. There's anything like that you can cling to. Obviously, you are going to have to go up against the game of Vasilis Barkas's life, which is just the most stick-on thing ever to happen, but could be fun.
Yes, indeed. Gal, your kind of thoughts on any changes to the lineup? There's not really much we can do, Stuart alluded to there. And do you think we'll win?
Looking at, obviously, Utrecht, 1 draw out of 7 games, the rest of them defeats, lost their last 3 games domestically, they're under real pressure.
Dr. Celtic, we'll see you now.
We should win, I guess. It's one of those where we should win. I don't know. I think we're better at home under Martin O'Neill, and I think that we have players coming back. Big Sriracha fan. I think we're all big fans of Sriracha. He brings an energy, and I don't mean that like condescending. Oh, he brings an energy. I think he's got real quality, and I really enjoy him. I'd sign him right up, by the way. I think he's really, he brings energy, and he brings pace, and he brings something to the team that's lacking.
Good delivery as well, as Stu said earlier. Yep.
Great delivery. I think you're probably looking at. I know, Stu, you said you wouldn't start him. I might start Iheanacho. I know that's wild, but Maeda's been so erratic that, see if you can get the first half with Iheanacho up front and we get a goal ahead and then you can take him off, I'd be more inclined to start with Iheanacho and take him off than to bring him on and to try and catch up to speed. I think it's better for him to start the game and bed in and see the game works around him as opposed to come in when the game's in full pace, especially if we're not far up and Utrecht are looking for something. I know they're already out, but they're probably just looking for pride. It's a game we can win. It's probably the best game for us in terms of the opposition's form and us coming into it. I think if we do win, I think it's just a big tick from a Martin O'Neill perspective. That'll be, the fact that we won away in Feyenoord, we get a point in Bologna, and then this will be very much he's contributed so much to it, as opposed to, he won one game and he's qualified. He'll have had a big part of this run, so that's certainly a positive. I think we will win. I think we will win. I think we'll win convincingly, and convincingly these days is 2-0. Hopefully.
Yeah, fingers crossed. And yeah, just as you were talking there, Gall, I was thinking it would be a shame. I know I said it might not be the worst thing if we were going out, but it would be a shame for O'Neill's good work in Feyenoord, in Rotterdam and Bologna to be in vain if we were to kind of fall at the final hurdle tomorrow. So yeah, hopefully a good win and it instills a bit of confidence. We've obviously got Falkirk on Sunday, but that'll be covered in the weekend update.
Yep.
Just the other sort of notable things are Hearts at Tannadice on Saturday night at 8 o'clock and Rangers at Easter Road on Sunday at 2. So we'll know both of their results before our game finishes on Sunday as well. But I think we'll leave it there. Gal, thanks for joining us.
Listen, it's an absolute joy to be a panellist. Barry, your hosting skills are second to one. Wink. But no, an absolute joy. Thanks for letting me get involved, and speak to you again soon.
Brilliant. Stu, thank you very much.
Thanks, Barry. Pleasure as always.
Yes, so this has been the Cynic Weekly. I've been your host, Barry Gallagher, with Stuart Duggan and Christopher Gallagher, and we'll speak to you down the road.